Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Is supposed to be a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing yesterday on the cover-up of Biden's alleged cognitive decline. I say alleged because all these leading lights of the left were flacking for him, and in many respects still are. Not the Joe Biden I knew. That wasn't my experience. That's the cover story. Well, John Cornyn, a senator from Texas, had this to say in advance of any getting down to business, because a lot of no-shows.
I will note that few of my Democratic colleagues are here today. Thank you to Senator Welch from Vermont for being here, leaving us with no other option than to take the boycotting of this hearing as an admission of guilt for their role in this crisis.
Nice.
We must not turn away from the search for answers.
I think that's a fair interpretation. By the way, the only reason Welch is there is because he's a lame duck. He doesn't have to worry about the blowback from constituents and the base of his party. Most of the others do, and apparently they're quite concerned, which is also a tell. And remember, it wasn't just formal members of the House and Senate caucuses or formal executive branch subordinates of the president. It was also people like, I don't know, FBI Director Christopher Wray, who were giving Biden the good housekeeping seal as it was clear that, there were problems in terms of his abilities to execute his duties.
It was a year ago today. Remember the Juneteenth celebration on the White House lawn with Kamala and Dougie and others, and they were dancing, and he was just gone. Like he was staring off into space.
Happier times.
Yeah. That's not the Joe Biden I know.
James Fitzgerald is a retired FBI special agent, criminal profiler from the Unabomber case that was memorialized in a very good series called Manhunt, in which Sam Worthington played James Fitzgerald. He's now the co-host of the Cold Red podcast. Cold Red is his podcast, which is on Spotify and Apple and all the platforms. James Fitzgerald, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Amy. It's always good to be back with you guys.
You know, what about, I mean, how do you look at, every American has an opinion on the handling of Biden's candidacy and what was said about his presidency versus what there's a pretty good evidentiary basis was the reality of his presidency. And of course, this was, brought out into the open because of the Jake Tapper book with everybody trying to cover their backsides. But when law enforcement, like a Christopher Wray, wades in on this to, again, as I said, basically parrot lines you expect to hear from Ali Mayorkas, how did that set with you?
Well, not very well. And I mean, Wray is, descending into the realms, not quite of James Comey yet, but in terms of directors of the FBI, another bad choice. And again, Trump had different advisors back in the day and thought he was the right way to go. But the more we're hearing about this, and not including or to include the Catholic memo that we're learning more about. It was only supposed to be one division, Richmond. Now it seems like half a dozen different divisions. So
1,000 agents,
along with everyone else,
1,000 people saw that memo, right?
That's right. Now, seeing it is one thing, acting on it, endorsing it, setting out separate leads is something else. So it really makes me ask a lot of questions about the mindset in the FBI. Then, I mean, I quite frankly had them back then. I had most of the answers back then. And, of course, they've all been verified lately. I can't help but think of the monkeys covering their eyes and their ears. But in this case, it's see no dementia, hear no dementia, when everyone's dealing with him, with Biden during those 4 years. And it's just so I saw a chart yesterday with the auto pen. You know, I'm a forensic linguist besides being a profiler, and writing and language is always helps me solve cases, including Unabomber, as you mentioned. And that use of that auto pen is so bothersome. the pardon of Peltier, I think it was an hour before Trump was sworn in. That hit me so hard. I predicted that 4 years ago on an FBI listserv I'm on. There's always these agents. Most agents support Trump. There's a few that come out Biden, even back 4 years ago. I said the most dangerous day in Biden's presidency will be his last day in office in terms of pardon. And where do you see Peltier get pardoned? And he did. So that's always personal, because 2 FBI agents were killed, of course, back in the mid-'70s by Leonard Peltier in an Indian reservation. So, it was so obvious to any of us with common sense. Any of us that had an older uncle or parent, they could just see with this guy's diminished capabilities, and the FBI suffered from it too.
But if he had such diminished capabilities, who was running the auto pen?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm an outsider to that, like you guys are, and many of us are. But that's the answer. I mean, I think that one of the best news sources I follow is the Babylon Bee. And,
right.
A year ago, they're talking about what intern's in charge today for, worldwide, policy. And it probably wasn't far from that in terms of who was making some of the decisions, certainly for the last year or so. And certainly once he dropped out of the race back in July of last year, and Kamala was the front runner of the Dems. I mean, so who knows? And I hope there are continued hearings. And of course, the Dems, in the Senate and the House, they don't want any parts of this. Oh, we're looking forward. Yeah, well, don't let history repeat itself, as Churchill or someone said. You've got to know what happened in the past to make sure it doesn't happen in the future. Yeah,
I mean, the Babylon Bee, right? So much satire becomes reality. It becomes very, very difficult to parody the truth.
It is.
I wanted to get your reaction to something else out this week, too. I mean, again, this information that is finally coming to light. I know the organizations that FOIA the information about the targeting of conservative Catholics, Catholics who attend the Latin Mass, that supposedly was limited to the Richmond office. And they got a response ultimately, but it was redacted. All the information that's now been released by the FBI was redacted previously. So apparently it was sensitive under the previous FBI leadership, but it's not sensitive under this leadership, or it's not. It wasn't FOIAble, and now it is FOIAble, because now you get the 1,000 people that had a view into this memo. So the same thing with this. Kash Patel this week turning over an intelligence report that had raised concerns that China had mass-produced fake driver's license to carry out a election scam to benefit Joe Biden, fake mail-in ballots. How important were mail-in ballots in the 2020 election for Joe Biden?
Right.
Very important. Right. Customs and Border Protection had, according to this report, intercepted nearly 20,000 fake licenses around the time the intelligence came in possible corroboration of the report. But basically, there was no action taken in furtherance of fleshing out whether or not this CCP ballot stuffing operation was going on or not. So now we have a disclosure, and now we have more questions about, okay, well, so who knew what? And if Customs and Border Protection also has some information about the mass production of fake licenses, why did this ever bubble to the surface? Why wasn't it investigated to completion so the FBI could make some definitive statement on it?
Well, it would be so not surprising to find out the same agents or the same squad that were handling the Hunter Biden laptop were also in charge of this particular investigation. Uh-huh. But look, I mean, it's so easy to get fake licenses, or they're not even fake licenses in California and New York and a bunch of other states for illegals in the country. But I guess, the CCP wanted to make it even easier to somehow affect that 2020 election. And, no one really knows what happens, but boy, there's a lot of supposition out there, which is slowly turning into evidence or evidence-grade material that I think we really should take another look at that 2020 election also.
So you support Kash Patel and Bongino sort of reopening some of the investigations that were closed in sometimes in curious manners from the previous administration?
Absolutely. I was one of the people, there's about 50 retired agents back in December or January that signed a letter supporting Kash Patel. We didn't know he'd bring on Dan Bongino, but that's okay. So yeah, I do support these. I mean, there's other missions the FBI should have. They can walk and chew gum at the same time. It didn't seem so much so under Ray in some areas, but we can still get to the child, pornographers and human traffickers and the fentanyl dealers. But yeah, let's put a squad of 10 or so agents and analysts together on all these different types of matters from the past. And let's get them finding out just what the hell happened and get to the bottom of it again so it doesn't happen in the future.
Have you seen evidence that there has been a redeployment of FBI agents sort of along the lines you were just talking about, a focus on dealing with violent crime and more so than, playing partisan politics inside the Beltway? I asked that because John Lott, we're talking about right now, the first 5 months of this year, you're looking at potentially the lowest murder per capita rate in this country ever recorded, which is great news. And John Lott from the Crime Prevention Research Center suggested that part of that involved a redeployment of FBI special agents that oriented toward violent crime in big metropolitan areas and solving cases.
Yes, I personally know agents in the Bureau now, younger folks, and they have been redeployed. They're certainly helping out ICE on some of the arrest scenarios in different cities, and some of them had working intel work, and this is doing intel work, and this is kind of a nice fresh change for them to get out and actually make some arrests of people who, of course, should be arrested and should have never been in the country to begin with. So yes, there is definitely that redeployment. Kash Patel was not just talking the talk; he's walking the walk, and his agents are doing the same, working under him. And I think it's a great day and a great new beginning, if you will, for the FBI in 2025.
One talking point that just is getting exhausting is all these Democratic politicians in Chicago, California, New York, saying that they're snatching people up in the middle of the night, legal U.S. citizens. Do you know of any cases at all where we're taking actual American citizens and taking them into detention centers?
No, if that was happening, they'd be these. Van Halen, I know that's not his real name, from Maryland, he'd be flying to see them too and actually, proof of their citizenship, whatever. I have no indications that happening. Look, is it possible they scoop up 20 people in some nightclub or some bodega somewhere? I don't even know. Is one of them perhaps there legally? Of course, but that person would be released within hours, no doubt. So is it possible there's an occasional mistake made? Of course. But there's no rampant, misuse of these of our immigration laws where they're deporting these people or starting the process and American citizens being picked up. It's not happening. It's just a convenient, a rationale to put out there to try to denigrate the other side.
Yeah, and your reaction to. The rhetoric, Tim Walz calling the ICE Gestapo. There's a renewed movement afoot to abolish ICE from, a bygone era. You have these congressmen getting themselves arrested and behaving obstreperously, if not illegally in some cases, and making a spectacle of themselves for, political purpose. I mean, how the FBI and ICE and the other federal law enforcement agencies that coordinate with one another. I mean, what's the impact of all of those political antics? Is it anything, or is it just white noise?
Well, it's beyond white noise. I mean, Tim Walz about 2 weeks ago was telling his zealots and his sycophants, we have to get meaner. So one of his people that he appointed to some sort of commission went out and got pretty mean last Saturday morning about 2 a.m.
Yeah,
and we see what happened to the Minnesota senator and representative, either murdered or attempted murder there. So you can't keep telling people that the police and law enforcement are Gestapo or SS troops and not expect them to be violated. The biggest interesting argument I hear right now, I think California has just sponsored a bill, some representative there, about the mask wearing of the ICE folks and other law enforcement. Now, it's okay when all the people on the streets wear their mask, Antifa and all the rioters throwing Molotov cocktails and shooting Roman candles at the police, but the police can't have any kind of a face coverage. And we know they're getting doxxed. I knew in NYPD a few years, even during the Black Lives Matter riots, the officers were covering up their names with black tape. You could still see their badge numbers, like 5-digit badge numbers. So if some police officer was doing bad, copy the number down, file your complaint. But they didn't want their names out there because their families and their kids are getting doxxed at schools and grade schools and kindergartens, and the same with these guys doing this work now. So I hope that law doesn't pass, or if it does pass, no one can wear a mask anytime, anywhere. Yeah. Ironic from 5 years ago when everyone had to wear a mask, driving in a car by yourself. You still see people doing that. I can't help but wave them with a thumbs up. They probably think I support them.
Do you really?
The irony.
I just shake my head. Mr. Fitzgerald, before we let you go, let's talk about your new book real quick, A Journey to the Center of the Mind.
Well, it's the fourth and final book in my memoir series, Amy. Thanks for asking. And your producer, Keith Conrad, he did the audiobook portion with me. He did some great work. And it'll be out in July, and it's the last 10 years of my FBI career and the 17 years since I've been retired. Hard to believe, but I've been very busy since then, still working cases. When the CNN told a lie about me on the air, I put a chapter in about that. Some other people who tried to come after me, I kind of go back at them. But a number of interesting cases there, too. Stalkers, bad guys, even put a guy in prison in Australia, all the way from the east coast of the U.S., with some stalking things he was doing. It's all in my book 4, A Journey to the Center of the Mind. All books are named the same thing, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, yeah, it's out in July. And thanks again to your producer, Keith Conrad. And looking forward to getting out there, doing some book talks, and maybe come back on and talk more about it then, guys.
Maybe you can go on a book tour with Jim Comey.
And bring your seashells in case you go to the beach.
There's an 86 joke in there, but I'm not going to say it.
James Fitzgerald. No, don't do it. James Fitzgerald, retired FBI special agent, criminal profiler from the Unabomber case, Journey to the Center of the Mind, the series Manhunt, if you haven't ever checked that out. Also, check out
Unabomber. Manhunt Unabomber.
Manhunt Unabomber, yes. Okay, thank you for that. Also, check out his podcast, Cold Red, is the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and all the podcast platforms. Jim Fitzgerald, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, guys. See you next time.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Charlie, is there something better we can do with all these pallets, OCC, and shrink wrap? It just keeps building up.